There was no word from bin Laden, but the Taliban-ruled government of Afghanistan, where bin Laden is based, issued a statement this morning condemning the attacks and saying bin Laden did not have the capability to carry out such acts. And there were plenty of other suspects, ranging from radical Palestinian groups to rogue governments.
President Bush has committed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to identify and bring to swift justice those responsible for these despicable attacks.
While the nation's intelligence community ran down possible suspects and tried to assess whether more attacks were imminent, rescue workers in New York and Washington confronted a disaster of immense proportions. In New York, local hospitals began
breathe because all of the debris that was coming down there just made it impossible to even feel like, you were going to get out of there. And once the building started coming down, I was sort of over in the area near the Woolworth building, and I thought, this building comes down, it's probably going to hit the Woolworth building, and I began to run. I mean, literally just run, at the top speed that I could to try to get over to the bridges. But then I kept thinking, whoever did this, they perpetrated this particularly to try to maybe bring down some of the other buildings. So all of the thousands of people that were on the Brooklyn Bridge, I also felt were probably in danger, and you really had no idea which way to run, but you knew that you just had to get somewhere. So it was incredible because I think that for the amount of people that have lost their lives today, it was just no way of knowing, what you could have done then.
Where did you work in the World Trade Center, Robert?
I wasn't working in the World Trade Center, but I work on William Street a few blocks around there, but I'd come into the area and was down there then.
And what about your other co-workers? Are they okay tonight?
I hope so. I mean, as you know, the cell phones were operating off of the World Trade Center tower, so a lot of people I've lost contact with. I've tried to call a lot of people. Cell phones initially had been out of touch. I've left messages from people, and I'm just glad to hear that Mayor Giuliani has suggested that people don't come into Manhattan tomorrow because it's been very difficult to get communication. I've tried to call to various members of my family, and they're saying that a lot of the lines have been tied up or not able to get through. So I would suspect that a lot of voicemails in that area probably are not operable now.
All right, thank you very much, Robert Harper, who had a narrow escape today. He was just a little bit late for work, and it was a good day to be that, probably.
Absolutely.
And he
filming a movie here or something, then all of a sudden, bam!
Brothers Jeff and Scott Such were there, ground zero, with their video camera.
You're good right here in the corner. Stay on the corner.
So after the first strike, you're not thinking terrorist attack, are you?
You're thinking that this is a really huge accident that I should be seeing this, so we just decided to go even closer.
The brothers continued shooting this videotape. As people trapped in the building began falling from the windows.
It almost looked as if someone had just stepped backwards and had fallen through a window.
What's this other jet doing?
But the terrorists weren't done. 20 minutes later, another plane, another tower, another devastating attack.
Boom, just a loud explosion, and then you just look up at the sky because that's where it came from. The noise came from above. You look up and it's just like graffiti in the sky.
And that was just the beginning. On the ground, chaos as one of the famed Twin Towers crumbles. Firefighters and rescue workers attack the other tower, still standing, still burning. Who knows how many trapped inside.
So start going to your trucks, make sure you got flashlights. If you don't have any lights, then let me know.
Oh, no! Then that tower collapses too.
And we had some time to get some of the people out, but then there was those secondary explosions and then the subsequent collapses. So I don't know how many people were in there. I know there was a lot of firefighters, a lot of public safety personnel were in there.
You call her and you tell her, let her hear your voice. She's gonna need to hear your voice. Just like you need to hear my voice, I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you, bye. See you later, I love you.
All day long, more fallout.
Because it might be a bomb in the school, maybe.
A reported bomb threat. A dangerous gas leak.
This is Ed Sullivan. I want that building evacuated.
All civilians, please head north of Moore Street.
Then, a nearby building collapses from the day's damage.
You are watching Building 7 at the World Trade Center collapse.
Amid the destruction and devastation, though, one remarkable thing did happen. Today's tragedy brought out the best in a city not always known for its kindness and humanity.
3 hours after in New York and at our nation's capital, the Pentagon, a disaster that strikes to the heart of every American and leaves the entire nation struggling to get information and the most basic questions: where are friends and family? The attacks make it almost impossible.
And Secretary Donald Rumsfeld held at the Pentagon at about 6:45 Eastern Time.
I should say we've received calls from across the world.
De Arizona, igual que la nación, estamos paralizados. Y las decisiones.
Tell you though that what you're seeing, if it is bin Laden, is a real bastardization of religion, which happens too often in our world, where people use their particular.
Emergency rooms, whole hospitals were made into emergency rooms, if you will. The exact number of dead, not known, cannot be known for a long while. 100 to 800, yes, that's a big spread, but nobody knows. 100 to 800 bodies believed to be in the Pentagon just outside Washington. Mayor Giuliani says that a tremendous, Bush said earlier tonight that, quote, thousands had been killed in these attacks today. Now, even American cities that were not specifically targeted by the terrorists, so far as we know, felt the aftershocks of the attacks. Airports closed and state after state went alert. Bill Whitaker has that part of the story from Los Angeles.
Work and even held a news conference there earlier today. But now we go to our correspondent, Andre Showell. Andre?
In the wake of all the destruction and chaos in the nation's capital, a sense of restrained urgency at area schools and hospitals.
Will change in how the United States may look at the world.
The United States has been the target of terrorism for decades. A violent attack on a U.S. embassy in Beirut 20 years ago shocked Americans. But in 1993, when a bomb exploded at the World Trade Center, terrorism took on a new meaning.
사상 초유의 대규모 공격을 감행하겠다고 공언한 것으로 알려지고 있습니다. 라덴은 지난 98년 케냐와 탄자니아에서 발생한 미 대사관 연쇄 폭탄 테러의 배후로 지목돼 왔습니다. 라덴은 그동안 미국의 수배를 피해 아프가니스탄으로 도주한 뒤 미국에 대한 테러 공격.
Ya regresamos.
Ya regresamos rapidísimo, regresamos. Y ahora sí podemos seguir aportando a nuestros televidentes datos tan interesantes como esos que nos están.
마저 피해가 잇따라 구조 요원들도 출입하지 못하는 통제 구역으로 선포됐었습니다. 미국 언론은 무역센터 주변 건물들이 테러의 여파로 추가로 붕괴될 가능성을 거듭 경고하고 있습니다. 사상 초유의 테러가 발생한 뒤 10시간이 지난 지금까지 뉴욕 맨해튼 섬을 오가는 모든 다리와 터널의 차량 통행이 통제되고 있습니다. 또 전화 등 통신시설도 대부분 마비됐으며 지하철은 부분 통제됐고 은행 업무도 중단됐습니다. 뉴욕은 물론 미국 전역의 항공기 운항이 전면 중단됐으며 또 있을지 모를 테러의 재발 가능성에 대해
shares in the tragic loss felt by all Americans. Out of respect and heartfelt concern, we have suspended our live programming. We will resume our broadcast and normal operations Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
I see. And how would you respond if you find out who did this?
Obviously, the President of the United States has spoken on that subject, and those are issues that he will address in good time.
Mr. Secretary, we are getting reports from CNN and others.
Miran algo muy extraño, llaman a las autoridades inmediatamente. No estamos ahorita enterados en cualquier ataque.
Las autoridades de los planes. The move is unprecedented in peacetime. The ban will remain in effect for 24 hours. Israeli airlines are still flying, but again, no foreign commercial aircraft into that country.
You know, a day so tragic.
Happened in the day, a deep sense that he was facing a complete change
and the way the U.S. is going to have to deal with one of the major threats it faces.
In 15 hours since the plane crashed into this side of the Pentagon, you can see in back of me there's still smoke. The fire is still burning. As a matter of fact, the various firefighters are still in what they're calling a defensive position. They haven't really attacked the interior. They're going to do that with the break of the light of day. They're going to literally peel back the walls, we're saying.
Terrorists who may have actually attended U.S. flight school. Apparently it's $50,000 for the appropriate
dead, and there are a number of casualties, but the FBI has secured the site, and the information takes time to come. People have been lifted out and taken away in ambulances, and the numbers will be calculated.
Los Angeles, piloted by 52-year-old John Oganowski. This afternoon, his brother spoke to reporters.
I ask all of you for your prayers for, as I refer to him, as Brother John. And I ask you to also pray for our whole country today.
Among the well-known passengers on the hijacked planes, the producer of the TV series Frasier, David Angel, and CNN commentator Barbara Olson, wife of U.S. Solicitor General Ted Olson. She reportedly called her husband twice on a mobile phone to tell him her plane was being hijacked, that the crew and all the passengers were being herded to the back of the aircraft. And on United Flight 93 from Washington to San Francisco, one of the flight attendants, Cece Myers, also used a cell phone to report that hijacking to her husband, a policeman in Fort Myers, Florida. By midday in Los
Awesome sight, and that's what we're viewing now in the aftermath.
Well, you know, I think undoubtedly building inspectors are going to have to go and assess the stability of other buildings in the immediate vicinity.
Well, sure.
Because I think that's one of the...
Here is this dramatic.
Yeah, this is probably the most dramatic of all the pictures. It is just...
Unbelievable.
So
it almost looks unreal. It almost looks like a model airplane.
And speaking earlier with a friend of mine who loves architecture, has studied the World Trade Center, told me that the way it's constructed is that the outside skin of the building acts as its support also. So without the skin, or with the integrity of the skin of either tower broken, that it jeopardizes the structure and its integrity.
Yeah, it's quite different from the Empire State Building, which is a totally different kind of structure. What happened here, if one floor collapses on another, the two floors start going down, and
where at the time of the blast, and there are
second plane hitting the second tower. Look at the speed of this plane.
A terrorist arrow pierces the heart of a city and a nation.
It went deep into the building. Now from another angle, see how far the airplane got into the thing. It was literally like a rocket hitting the building. Now from the other direction, another shot. Balls of fire, and the doomed and the dead began plummeting out of the buildings. Yet another shot of how that second building was hit by the aircraft. Now, if you're saying to yourself, what made those buildings collapse? Those who constructed the building, those who designed the building, said today that the force of an airplane, even a big...
And a storm of wreckage and debris rains on crowds of people below. Dozens of workers trapped on high floors in the 110-story buildings fear there is no hope and leap to their deaths. But the horror is not over. As the buildings are evacuated...
The hijacked plane struck the 110-story towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. Thousands of unknowing people had just arrived at work when the plane slammed into the two huge towers that symbolizes American capitalism. The terrorists also struck the focal point of America's military might by crashing a third plane into the Pentagon. A fourth plane likely missed its intended target when
a Muslim wishing to be rewarded in heaven should comply with God's order to kill the Americans and plunder their money wherever and whenever they find it. So who is this madman who kills with...
Frasier. Airlines Flight 175, also headed here from Boston, hit the second World Trade Tower, 64 people on board. American Airlines Flight 77 from Dulles to LA, 56...
That was the plane coming in from obviously on the other side there and through. Now the second one is the one that, Colleen, you haven't seen this, I have. This is remarkable.
Here comes the second one. This second one is the United Airlines flight from Boston.
This is remarkable.
Oh.
That was Flight 175, United Airlines from Boston, hitting about the middle of the second tower. And again, that was taken by an amateur photographer.
Again, we're going to switch back to network right now. We'll be back at 11 o'clock with all the local coverage on this horrific disaster that hit America today, Attack on America.
We'll see you then.
His voice saying
it was far from secure. Just minutes later, the second crash right into his office.
If I went back up, I would have been dead.
Flight 11 was in the air less than an hour, bound for Los Angeles from Boston, when it was hijacked and crashed into the World Trade Center, leaving a gaping, burning hole. Then 18 minutes later, the unimaginable. A second passenger jet also hijacked and plunged into the other twin tower in a fiery explosion. It was a scene of unparalleled disaster. Less than 2 hours after the initial attack on the two tallest buildings in Manhattan, the symbol of American capitalism collapsed into rubble.
Something that we've had nightmares about, but probably thought wouldn't happen. My heart goes out to all of the innocent victims of this horrible and vicious act of terrorism.
E-ring, and the plane came in swooping from the far right side here of your screen, flying low, scraping the trees. We could actually see some of the foliage knocked off the top of these trees, maybe even knocked down a few light posts. The wings may have been clipped off as it banked hard to the right and sliced inside.
America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you, good night, and God bless America.
Bear witness as one symbol of America's financial might burns, only to watch in horror as hijackers send a second deadly message to the United States.
And then, only half an hour later, another target, another city, this time the Pentagon, the military seat of the world's only remaining superpower.
And there was more to come. Plane number 4 goes down in rural Pennsylvania.
Be alive. And tonight, these shocking images showing the two hijacked planes crashing into the Twin Towers. A different and startling view of the attack by amateur photographers, which we hadn't seen all day until tonight. And tonight, thousands are feared dead. Live team coverage tonight. We begin with Channel 4's Doug Kriegel, who was live once again for us in New York City. Doug?
This flight tracker shows both airplanes now suddenly taking sharp turns, veering south and heading for New York City. At 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time, incredibly, the American Airlines flight slams into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
The bottom elevator, the glass, just flames exploded out the front of the World Trade Center, and glass flew everywhere.
Then at 9:03 a.m., television cameras suddenly spot the United flight taking dead aim at the World Trade Center's South Tower. People on the street cannot believe what they are witnessing.
I'm across the street from the Marriott, man. A second airplane, a 727, just ran into the building.
Witnesses report seeing victims, some like, to be terrified and violated.
Make a statement to the world that the U.S. military establishment has taken a hit, but it is not down. And as a matter of fact, already there's some preliminary planning going on for retaliation once the person or the organization or the nation that is going to be deemed responsible is identified. And there was quite a bit of work done in this building today, quite a few public appearances, including one by the ranking Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee, John Warner.
We call upon the entire world to step up and help, because terrorism is a common enemy to all, and we're in this together. The United States has borne the brunt, but who can be next? Step forward and let us hold accountable and punish those that have perpetrated this attack.
As I mentioned, the firefighters and the rescue people in the back here are in a holding pattern right now, waiting for the rest of the flames to go out. The plan is at daybreak to start peeling away the section that was hit by the airplane and to go in and see just how really serious the damage was inside. Damage, of course, that we can see is pretty much catastrophic. Colleen?
And Bob, do you